Presentational aids can help a speaker engage the audience and help to explain difficult concepts. Let's explore some of the many types of presentational aids available for a speaker's use. People can serve as presentational aids. You can wear a uniform or costume appropriate for your speech. A state trooper wearing a uniform adds credibility to a speech about highway safety. For a speech about miming, you could have a friend show a few techniques while you explain. Just be sure to work with your helper beforehand to rehearse. Inanimate objects make great presentational aids. For a speech about musical instruments from around the world, you could bring a Peruvian ocarina and play a few notes. Because this instrument is small, you could also use an enlarged photo as well, so that everyone in the back of the room can see. If your speech covers objects too large to bring with you, a representation of the object is useful. For a speech about the White House, a paper model will do nicely. This is a photograph of a model of the White House. If you are using the model itself, the audience could view it up close after the speech from different angles. Enlarged photographs can help describe a process as well as an object. This photograph gives details of a finished henna tattoo. Smaller photographs would not work. Maps are great visuals. This one can help illustrate how the Roman Empire once touched 3 continents. The names of all but the capital city are left out, so there will not be too much information. If you need to visually represent data so that it is understandable, charts and graphs can help. A graph shows how a change in one thing relates to a change in another over time. In this line graph, the y-axis on the left-hand side counts up to 8 banks, and the countries with the largest banks are listed along the x-axis. You can clearly see that this particular year, Japan had the most with 7 banks, but give your audience time to absorb the information and explain the relationships to guide their eyes to it. In this bar graph, the temperatures in Celsius are listed on the y-axis and the months of the year on the x-axis. Charts are a visual arrangement of words or numbers according to some obvious principle, and usually represent a snapshot in time rather than a relationship over time. This pie chart, with its contrasting colors, easily shows how much of this spending budget goes to each category. Right now, more than 3 times as much is being spent for housing than for savings. Another type of chart is the statistical chart. When you use this type of chart, explain it well. Your audience, for example, might not know that GB in a baseball chart stands for games behind the leader. So in this chart, Toronto is in the lead and has no GB in that particular box. Presentational aids need not be only visual in nature. Multimedia, as long as it doesn't take over the presentation, can be very useful.
If you were to take a slice with the grain, it might look very appetizing, but when you put that in your mouth,
it'd be a lot like chewing on a bunch of pieces of garden hose wrapped up in plastic wrap. The plastic wrap would be the connective tissue. Long meat fibers equal a lot of chewing.
Now here are some rules for using slide presentation software. Strive for simplicity. Use only 1 to 3 images per slide. Don't go wild with color or all caps. Avoid distracting backgrounds. Use simple fonts, not elaborate ones. Take care with using traditional presentational aid materials. A chalkboard is fine for 1 or 2 words, or for a speech that involves changing or adding to your presentational aid, as in a speech about football plays or soccer plays. A flip chart is fine to use, but practice with it beforehand to make sure that it will be easily manipulated. Poster board is great as long as you know exactly where you can place the poster board, and it's a good idea to cover your poster boards when you are done with them. Handouts are also useful, especially for after the speech. If you pass out handouts during the speech, you run the risk of your audience reading from the handouts instead of listening to you.